my friends. Zozo Dude here. Welcome aboard the Mystery Ship. Hey, it's my pleasure to host this show 3 days a week. I get to hang out with just some of the best people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. I got to know many of them during a cross-country journey on my motorcycle, and I've got another one coming up within the next month, so I hope to be seeing many of you very soon. You know, on the show, we take care of one another. We watch out for one another. It is a great pleasure of mine to host this program. I'm glad you're here. Have a look at the fine shirts that these sailors are wearing. You'll find out how to get one for your very own and join the collage of sailors at the beginning of the program. Welcome aboard.
Well, that one cuts off quite abruptly. I'm going to have to remember that for future. What is going on here? What the heck is going on in my world? The damn... Seriously. Can you guys tell me, were you hearing the waves in the background on that one? Because my computer was shut off when I came in here. The gremlins were alive and well. Nothing was as it should be. I'm wondering. Whoa. I'm wondering if the speakers got changed somehow. No, looks like they're where they're supposed to be. Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear me. That's what I'm hoping. Can you hear me out there? Tommy, can you hear me? All right. It looks like we're live at D-Live. What's going on with my bouffant? We are live at Twitch. Are we live at Twitch? Yes, we are live at Twitch. Good. Very, very good. Live at D-Live. We're live at Twitch. Are we live at YouTube? Oh, it does look like we're live. Yeah, effing gremlins. I'm telling you, baby. I'm telling you. Oh, we're live at Pilled Foxhole. That is always a beautiful thing. Mr. Texan, how are you doing? I was just checking up on your weather. How is your weather? How is the weather in Dallas, Texas? Those poor guys have been getting the crap kicked out of them for so long. You know what? I hate the Weather Channel. I just hate the Weather Channel. I'm going to trust that the Texan will tell me that it's a little cooler in his neighborhood than it used to be. I hope that it is. I was speaking with my friend the other night who lives over in Houston. And he was telling me at that time that it had been over 100 degrees for like a month. He said that the other night when they actually had a day that was 99 degrees, they couldn't believe it. They were ecstatic. Thank you, T. Cross. I do appreciate the help over there. That means a great deal. Thank you, Joe Lane. We're loud and clear. That is a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. How y'all doing out there? Everybody pretty groovy? I see that they made the adjustment over there to my lemon stack over at T Live. I got a really interesting little note because I was astounded the other night. Basically, my lemon count had doubled, and I'm like, son of a gun. I got a little note from D Live saying, "We're terribly sorry, but a grave mistake was made in your favor, and we're going to have to take back those lemons. They're really not yours." So I shrugged my shoulders and went, It was a nice dream while it lasted. There was a significant amount of lemons in there. Significant. Oh, mammy. Looks like we've got a bunch of wonderful people showing up. I'm seeing them. Microphone literally could not be louder. Unbelievable. God dang it. Abe, I'm not kidding you. I've got the damn thing. I have a little red line on. Maybe it's because I'm swallowing the mic. Maybe I'll just sit back and do what I normally do. The problem is it's not coming through my cans the way it's supposed to. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Okay, now I can hear myself. Now I can hear myself better. Testing. All right. I'm not even anywhere near the red, so hopefully that's good. I need a damn 15-year-old kid spinning the knobs over here. That's what I need. Abe +1 overmodulated. Thank you, Mad Pogue. Hopefully it's better now. Tell me it's better now because it's not even tickling the little red dot. Not even anywhere close to it. Welcome aboard the Mystery Ship, my friend. My name is Zoso Dude. I know that you come and join me several nights a week. It is my pleasure to host these little late night extravaganzas. I've got some interesting little stories for you tonight. I always try to dig up something unusual for you, and I've run across a little, I don't know. It is, this was tonight's premise was sparked by, I read an article in a newspaper, and it was a man and a woman who were happily married, had a handful of kids. They were probably about Abe Sinclair's age. And they were visiting, I can't remember, one of their parents. One or the other was visiting the other's parents, and the parents whipped out the old, in fact, it was the husband. The husband's family was hosting the wife's family, and they whipped out, the old photo albums. And, oh, look, this is when little Billy went to Disneyland in 1972, and they showed a photo of the husband, who's like 10, 12, standing in line at Disneyland to ride the teacups, okay, the Mad Hatter, and sitting in a teacup right behind him, waiting for the bell to ring and the thing to start spinning, is his future bride, who was also about 10 years old at the time. An amazing twist of fate that they somehow met each other 15 years later, got married, and then dug up an old photo and realized they were in the same place at the same time. I've often wondered throughout my life if I only had some kind of magical looking glass. Like Mrs. Zoe and I, we grew up as the crow flies. As the crow flies, we grew up less than 5 miles from one another, probably 3.5, 4 miles from one each other as the crow flies. I wonder if we were ever at the same backyard parties or, all of that kind of crap. Those wild college days of the 70s. Who knows? But I would love to know. I wonder if you find that stuff out when you get to heaven. One can only hope. Let's quickly go around the horn and see who's there and how they're hanging. Looks like we are live over at Rumble, and I'm seeing T. Cross and Willie Fixit hanging out over there. Thanks for joining us over there. Good to see you, folks. Over at the Tube, Andy Social's in the house. Deep Blue Dude says, Zoso Dude, I made your chili the other day in my pressure cooker. It was killer. Zeppelin the dog ate a bowl I had set out for the old lady. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when I posted that chili recipe, if you go down into the description of the video, I actually completely listed all of the ingredients, all of everything. So, just like a real person. But I'm glad you tried it, and I'm glad it was delicious. The only thing I want to do next time is like double the amount of chilies, fresh chilies. And it says to gut them and take all the seeds out. I think I want to leave the seeds in so I get a little heat. I like hot chili. I like a hot chili. I want it to warm me to the very cockles of my soul. Let's see who's hanging out over at Pilled Foxhole. We've got a gang of them. A gang. LT57, the first man in the door. Good to see you. Crazy Chuck with a K. Tip of the cap to you, my man. Joe Elaine hanging out. Victoria Lee. How are you doing, little lady? I want you to keep your eyes open for a letter coming in a neon envelope. And I want you to pay closest attention to the stamp when you get that letter. Okay, Victoria? Pay close attention to the stamp on the letter. Jojo in the house. Great to have you aboard. Girl Patriot. How are you doing, little lady? Wonderful that you have joined us. Thanks for hanging out with us. Rooster. My brother Rooster. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks again for putting me up. Great to see you. Yes, indeed. Wonderful to have you aboard. You. Prairie Fire is with us. Oh, Mammy. It's going to be a fun little evening. I've got some very interesting little stories for you. Mikey Baseball in the house. Folks, be sure and go check out Mikey Baseball's channel. He's got a channel over at the Foxhole. Worth taking a look at. I think you'll find it very interesting and quite enjoyable. The Texan is with us. Hope he is chilling out down there. Victoria Lee, she says she is back. I never knew you left. All right. We've got a wonderful crew of people hanging out at Pilled Foxhole. Video Demon Slayer Jacob is in us. Thank you kindly. I do appreciate the hot tip on the mic there. All of you guys. Goobage in the house. Thank you all for showing up over there. We've got a fun little crowd hanging out over at D Live. Holy smokes, there's some names I haven't seen before. Mad Pogue, of course. Jayla17, always a pleasure, little lady. Spudley is with us. Lynn Winters. How you doing, darling? Alex Allen, good to have you aboard the mystery ship. Artist 61, what is cooking good looking? Black Cat 5, what is going on? Sheeple, I hope your head is holding its own over there. My name is D. Pleasure to have you aboard over there. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you. Deus Volt, Val Kimber. We've got nothing but the Lulu Christo. Did I see you? Yes. We've got the fun folks hanging out over at D Live. Thanks so much for joining us over there. Let's take one last peek over at Twitch. Don't know quite what's going on with Twitch, except there is a beautiful picture there. I mean, a stellar picture. So maybe someone will wander in and take the place over. I don't know. But I'm awfully glad to have you aboard. Thanks for joining me this lovely Wednesday night. I've got a couple of interesting, well, I have some interesting stories for you. What's great about my stories tonight is that this could be like an old-time radio program where you don't have to watch the screen. Just kind of sit back, close your eyes, take your phone if you're listening on your phone, and just like set it on the pillow next to you, and just let your brother Zoe blow your mind with these silly little stories that I have unearthed, because they're pretty bizarre. We are going to come back with those silly stories immediately following this message from our sponsors, or someone who I wish really was my sponsor. Be back in just a moment. Time to refill your drink, go find your ciggies, walk the dog, but be back here. Toot sweet.
Why do we sail upon the mystery ship? 'Cause we never know where we'll go next.
people, this is also where I take a moment to thank the wonderful folks who support the show in any way possible. Those of you who are kind enough to drop gold pills, those of you who share lemons, you are wonderful. Those others of you who choose to, I don't know, use Buy Me a Coffee or any of the other means that there are to support this show, paypal.me, all of that. But one of the greatest and nicest things that you could ever do for a guy is simply tell a friend about this silly little show. It is, it's silly, but it's growing. And we're growing every week. When I tune in, it says, you've got another follower. So whatever you're doing, people, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I also really want to extend my incredible thanks to all of you who watched Sunday night's show and decided to help out our dear sister, Sleeping Stars, who, as you know, is having some medical problems that just don't add up, okay? She's been to a number of doctors and nothing seems to click. There's no magic that they can prescribe for her to cure her ailment, so she is seeking alternative methods. And with no health insurance, she's got to pay for it all out of pocket. I noticed that a great many of you rose to the challenge and helped the young lady out. You guys are just incredible. You are freaking incredible. I got a little good news today and a little bad news today, but my motorcycle returned home yesterday. And it's kind of a funny thing. Got into a little bit of a beef with the transportation company. Now, they're a reputable company. That's what they specialize in, moving motorcycles. That's what they do. They have a giant hub in Pennsylvania and another hub in Nevada. So they collect bikes on the East Coast and send them to Pennsylvania. They collect bikes on the West Coast. They send them to Las Vegas. And then they have a big transport that just goes back and forth between those two locales. And then once the bikes arrive at the other hub, then they hire Johnny Come Lately and his trailer to deliver the bikes where they should go. So I get a call a few days ago from a guy saying, hey, I've got your bike. I'm headed to your area. This was on Sunday. He said, I should be in your neighborhood by Tuesday. How would you like to meet me, et cetera, et cetera. So I gave him a couple of options. Finally, he mentioned to me that he was going to be stopping at the local Harley-Davidson dealer, the dealership that I built. So I said, well, for crying out loud, man, why don't you just drop it there? Just please do me a favor. Call me when you're on the way there, because I'm 10 minutes away. I'd like to be there when the bike arrives. I'd like to receive it, look it over, make sure everything's okay. He never called me. He dropped the bike off and got the hell out of there. And a little while later, I got a call from my friends down at D&S Harley, who said, hey, we've got your bike here. Is there something wrong with it? Do we need to work it over? I said, no, there's nothing wrong with it. I'll be down to fetch it a little later. I briefly explained that I had a medical emergency and had to return home. Would they just mind watching it for a few hours until I could get there after work? So I get there after work, and wouldn't you know it, the battery is dead. So newer motorcycles, like my brand new Harley 2023 Street Glide, have a built-in feature. They've been doing this now for, I don't know, 5, 6, probably 6 years that I know of. It's a safety feature. When you, it's actually a security feature. When you park your bike somewhere, like you go to the store, you back it into a curb, you get off your bike, you go inside to a store. If somebody is to bump the bike or even just touch the motorcycle, both of your blinkers start flashing. And all it is to alert you that somebody touched your motorcycle. This is a feature that, there's been a number of times where just tinkering around in my garage, I accidentally bumped my bike and I turned around to find my flashers flashing. So, it's not like horns go off or anything. It's just your blinkers. But in the event that you're going to transport a bike any distance, like in the back of a pickup truck or something, you can select on the dashboard transport mode. And what that does is it kills the power that normally would go to this security feature. That way you don't burn up your battery. Well, apparently this self-professed first-timer, the guy who picked up my motorcycle in Las Vegas along with a host of others and delivered them up here in the Northeast, not only did he not call me, but he dropped my bike off and got the fuck out, if you know what I mean. I go down to pick it up, and not only will it not start, but the battery won't even take a charge. Meaning, Zoe's got to fork out $300 for a new battery. I can't. So I called the company, and I said, hey, what gives here? Fair's fair. The bike was perfectly operating when you guys picked it up. Oh no, sir, we never start the motorcycles. We roll them on. I said, no, you don't. No, you don't. You know why I know that? Because I have a video. I have a video that my friend shot of your guy starting my bike up and driving it into the back of the van in New York. So don't try to tell me you don't start the bikes. First of all, my bike is filled to the gunwales right now, okay? I left unexpectedly, so all of the boxes are filled to the brim. That thing is so heavy, you are not going to push that bike up a ramp. I don't care if you're freaking Dolph Lundgren or some other gigantic human being. Who's the guy who played Lou Ferrigno? Okay. Anyway, we'll call you back. Let us investigate. And I said, you do all the investigating you like. All I know is my bike worked perfectly when you picked it up, and now it doesn't. So we'll see what happens. We shall see, won't we? Freaking turds. Freaking turds. All right. So I shared a little story earlier tonight about the bride and groom who mysteriously found childhood pictures of themselves at Disneyland, never knowing that they were just 3 feet from one another when they were little kids, and they didn't find it out for many, many years afterward. But I do have some funny little stories here that I like to share with you, because this is truly, some of these are unbelievable. Some of these are truly just unbelievable. Are you ready? Are you ready to be entertained? Because some of these Mrs. Zoe found quite humorous. Let's see. This first one is called The Fierce Fluffy. The Fierce Fluffy. When I was around 8 years old, my dog followed my dad to wait with me for my school bus. While they were waiting, my dad saw Fluffy get hit by a truck. So he took him and he buried him. Then we went out of town for the weekend, but on Sunday evening, when we returned, Fluffy was standing on our porch. Dad couldn't believe it and told us, I buried him on Friday. Turns out, Fluffy had merely been knocked out, so he rose from the dead and dug his way out of the dirt and was sitting there on the front porch waiting for them to come home. Is that not crazy? Well, here is a good one. And this one actually has a picture that I found amusing. Let me see if I can do this. This could be worth sharing. Yes, I'll just do that. So, story number 2. My parents were newlyweds in New Jersey and then moved to Illinois after I was born. They lived there my entire childhood, and then they divorced the year that I graduated. My dad moved to Las Vegas, and my mom moved to Texas. When I turned 30, I took a job in South Florida, the first and only member of my family to ever even travel there. While at a local Goodwill in search of home furnishings, I found an old book of poetry on a kitchenware shelf, and I liked the look of the cover. So I bought it for $0.25, and I took it home with the rest of my stuff. Later that night, I opened the book up, and when I looked at the front cover, I was shocked to see an inscription. In my dad's unmistakable handwriting, it was his gift to my mom on their 3rd wedding anniversary. And there it is. There is the photograph showing that this woman ended up buying a book at a thrift shop several states away. Weird, weird, weird. I don't know if there's a warranty on the battery purifier, but probably not in this instance. I don't think so. This next story is called The Haunted Apartment. I was having lunch with a new coworker, and he was telling me about his new apartment and how haunted it was. He didn't tell me where it was located, but as he started telling me stories about the hauntings he was experiencing, it sounded familiar. I had an apartment I once lived in that was haunted. I told him the address, and he turned as white as a sheet. He was living in that same haunted apartment. When I told him a few details that only he could have known, he freaked out, and he moved out that very week. Now, folks, that would be freaking trippy. That would be trippy. Wait a minute. Artist61 is sharing an interesting little aside here. She said she was in an antique shop and found a photo of her second great-grandfather and uncle in an antique shop. Well, that is one of the exact reasons why I'm doing this. I'm hoping that you guys have some similar stories. It's crazy. It is crazy. All right, let's get to our next interesting little story. This one is entitled The Nurse. My father had a heart attack many years ago, and I showed up to the hospital at 3 a.m. Given the time of day and the fact that he was in ICU, I initially wasn't allowed into the hospital. However, I was finally let in by a nurse who calmed me down and allowed me to see my father. He was so kind to our family throughout my dad's hospital stay. Oddly enough, about 6 months later, my paternal grandmother was in the ICU for another medical issue, and again, we were cared for by this very same nurse. About a year later, I received a call from my dad telling me, "Turn on CNN." Turns out, the nurse was Charles Cullen, who famously confessed to murdering up to 40 patients. They must have been one of the lucky ones. They must have been one of the lucky ones. This next little story is entitled The Unlucky Gent. A couple of years ago, I was flat broke and in a store spending literally my last couple of bucks on ramen, just enough to get me through to payday. Boy, does that sound familiar. I used to live on for 19 cents. This is going to be about 1981. For 19 cents, you could get Kraft macaroni and cheese. You know that you had to add a dab of butter, but that's all you needed. All right. So a couple of years ago, I was flat broke and in a store spending my last couple of bucks on ramen to get me through to payday. The lottery happened to be very high, so I decided to take my last $2 and put it on a ticket. Well, this little old lady walked up behind me, and since the store was packed, I let her go ahead of me. She jumped in front of me and she purchased one Quick Pick lottery ticket. I then purchased my Quick Pick lottery ticket and went home. A couple of days later, I was watching the news and I saw the very same woman. She was the only winner of a $90 million jackpot. If I hadn't let her in front of me in line, I would have purchased that Quick Pick ticket and I'd be the millionaire right now. Well, I'm sure he's a millionaire in other ways. I actually had a similar story, a real life story like that, but I'll be damned if I can remember it. It was something quite similar. I let somebody in front of me and something really good happened to them. I don't remember what it is. Been too long. The Runaway Weenie is the title of our next little tale. The Runaway Weenie. When I was a kid growing up in Texas, we had a cute little wiener dog named Golondrina. One day, the gate was actually left open, and she got out and she ran away, leaving us all heartbroken. A year later, the house next door went up for sale, and it sold, and the new neighbors were from Kansas, and they had the cutest little wiener dog. A few months later, after the neighbors had settled in, we started noticing certain things about the dog. I swear, it felt like the dog knew us. Every time she saw us, she would whimper uncontrollably. So one day, my parents finally decided to ask the neighbors where had they gotten that little wiener dog. They said that they'd found her wandering in their neighborhood in Kansas. After taking her to the vet to see if she was chipped, which she wasn't, they had posted signs, but nobody ever claimed her. So they decided to keep her. My dad told them we had a dog just like theirs, and that her name was Golondrina. Turns out, she was actually our lost dog, and they still had her collar that confirmed that it was her. Can you believe that crap? Can you freaking believe that crap? Now there's a story that I have that can follow that. I've told you guys my story about my dog. Finding my dog a year later. Yeah, I can't believe it. I had a dog by the name of Zoph, and I think he was a mix. I know that he was part golden retriever, and I think he was part Irish setter, but I don't know. He was just a wonderful dog with one floppy ear. He was the cutest little dog you ever saw. And every year during the 4th of July when the fireworks would go off, it just freaked him out. The poor guy, I would bring him inside, and he would just cower. I guess it hurt his ears. And well, one 4th of July, I wasn't home, and I guess old Zoph had enough. He jumped the fence. When I came home, my dog was gone. No sign of him. And I spent the better part of a year, at least 8 months, driving to the 3 different pounds in my local, in the San Fernando Valley there. And it was heartbreaking. I mean, at first I was going every day. For the first month, I was going every single day. After that, it got down to like every couple of weeks. And after about 8 months, I'd go at least once a month to all 3 different pounds looking for my lost dog, who I never found. And then one day, I'm about 10 miles from home, and I pull into a liquor store. And as I get out of my car, I look, and there's this dog sitting in the front seat of this little Ford Courier. I looked at this dog, and I'm like, son of a gun, man, that just really looks like my old dog. So I started walking inside, and I stopped. And I turned around, and I looked at him again, and I said, Zoph! And he went ballistic. I opened up the door of this truck, and then my dog jumped all over. He was licking my face. He was just all over me, this freaking dog. I went into the liquor store, and I said, whose dog is this? And this thrasher, this really thrasher-looking biker chick. Well, man, he just showed up to my house one day, and he really likes my bitch, so he's getting a lot of action. My old man's in jail. Maybe you could bring him by. Like, lady, you stole my dog. Why wouldn't you turn him in to the pound or something? I was pissed. I was very happy to get my dog back. Very, very happy to get my dog back. I just couldn't believe that somebody would just keep somebody's dog. That is just, ooh. Wow. Just not classy. Not classy. Okay, so what did you just do? I think I just lost something. There we go. Okay. This next interesting little story is called The Famous French Fry Thief. And it's a short story, but it's true nonetheless. I was eating lunch at a Wendy's when Bill Murray sat down at my table. He stole a French fry, he dipped it into my Frosty, and ate it. He then looked at me, smiled, and said, "Nobody's going to believe you," and got up and walked away. I believe him. I believe him. This next short story is entitled The Girl Next Door. When I was 19, my boyfriend was stabbed to death while breaking up a fight. 2 years later, my boyfriend and I moved into a house that was split into 2 flats. I worked with the girl next door. Turns out, she was my boyfriend killer's then girlfriend. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God, that is just weird. That is just freaking weird. Yeah. Now a psychopath. Oh, I love our people. Yes. This next story is entitled The Blind Date Bind. I accidentally set my best friend up on a blind date with her ex-husband. I was going out on a first date with a guy, and he asked if I had a friend for his buddy. So I invited my best friend along. And then the guys showed up, their jaws dropped, and we all had margaritas. Now that's freaking crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Actually, that is something that would happen to me. Oh, you're kidding, Victoria Lee. You lost one of your dogs last week? I am so sorry. Oh, Victoria Lee had beautiful, beautiful dogs. Oh my goodness. I'm very, very sorry to hear, my friend. That is bad news. Their drawers dropped. Sheeple, why can I always count on you? Always. Okay, this next little story is called The Divine Intervention. My grandpa raised me growing up, and his favorite number was 44. Every day, he had me wait with him to watch the clock change to 4:44. His son, my uncle, had died in a car accident, and his football jersey was number 44. Then, my grandpa passed away in 2016. The next year was the worst year of my life. I wasn't religious, and I didn't usually pray. But in this instance, my car had broken down. I was registering my grandpa's truck at the DMV, and in the Notes app on my phone, I asked for a sign that my life would change, or for a guardian angel. It was the first and only prayer I had ever written down on my phone. When the lady called up, she asked what I wanted the license plate to say. State of Florida, In God We Trust, or something else. And I said, In God We Trust. She brought me the license plate, and the number was 4444. I immediately started crying, and my life actually did turn around in every respect. So there is a good, positive, healthy story. That is pretty amazing. That is pretty dang cool. I like it. In fact, look at this. Just so you know, whoops. Just so you know, the guy's not full of malarkey. There's his license plate. Come on now. Work with me, baby. There is his license plate. 4444. In God We Trust. How about them apples? Oh, that is freaking awesome. That is freaking awesome. This next story is called The Bike Accident. When I was 9, I broke my arm and I hit my head when I fell off my bike. And a boy in the street helped me up. 20 years later, I was meeting up with one of my best friend's friend, and I told the story of that bike accident. It turns out my best friend's friend was the boy who picked me up when I fell. And now we're married and living happily ever after. Well, isn't that incredible? That's as that's just par for the course. You got to have some stories like this every now and then, people. It's what makes the freaking world go round. You all right? Alrighty, this next little story here. This next little story is called The Family Apartment. The Family Apartment. My boyfriend and I moved into the same apartment with my grandparents. Oh, excuse me. My boyfriend and I moved into the same apartment my grandparents had lived in after World War II. We didn't know until my mom was going through their old stuff to make a Remembrance Day piece for her front hall, and she found an old letter addressed to them at my address. Now that's crazy. That's crazy. It happens, though. All right, this next interesting little story is called The Cup Exchange. The Cup Exchange. When I was first married, back in the early 70s, one of the cups from my best dinner set got broken, and I couldn't get an exact replacement. I could get the same color, but in a different shape. 40 years later, after moving 2,800 miles across the country, I went for a meal at a friend's house and noticed she had cups like the replacement one. After I told her the story about breaking a cup and only being able to get one like hers, she went into her cupboard and brought back a cup exactly like the one I had broken. She had had the same experience, but in reverse. Some 40 years later, we swapped cups, and now we both have complete sets. Now that is crazy. That's freaking crazy. Stranger things have happened. This next little quip, and this is just a short one, this is called The Same Name. This woman says, I found out that if my husband had been born a girl, his parents had planned to name him Megan Elizabeth. That is my name. Okay, that's freaky. That's freaky enough. That's freaky enough for me. That's bizarre. This next little story is called The Bird Whisperer. The Bird Whisperer. One day, I saw a hummingbird trying to fly out of my garage. It was trapped and couldn't find the opening, so I held out my hand, and it freaking flew right into it. So I took him outside and let him go. A month later, in a relative's garage, another hummingbird was trapped. So I went over there, held out my hand again, and this one landed in my hand also. I, of course, let him go too. The only thought was that they were literally exhausted, and for some reason they felt comfortable with me. I wonder if it was the same damn bird. That's what I wonder. But in both cases, this person's not lying. They're not lying. There is the photographic evidence. They took pictures both times. Hummingbird 1, Hummingbird 2. I guess it really does happen. I guess it really does happen. Who knows? Who knows? All right, we are moving on to the next story. And this story is called The Same Everything. My daughter met a little girl at the park last summer, and it turned out that they were both going into kindergarten at the same school. They ended up having the same teacher, and this little girl also lives on our street. In fact, when we were house hunting, we toured their house. I also found out that when they were infants, they were both at the same center for a few months. I actually remembered meeting her mom when we toured the room. And very recently, we both discovered we had both gone to the same college and had graduated the same year. Now that is some quinky dink right there. That is some big time quinky dink. Holy guacamole. Well, I've heard it all live here tonight. Okay, let's get a look at this one. This one is called The Helpful Harry. The Helpful Harry. My grandmother was traveling to the Philippines with her sister, who was ill. When they got off the plane and went into JFK Airport, Harry Connick Jr. helped pick her up after she collapsed on the floor. My grandmother looked up and said, "You look a lot like Harry Connick Jr." He responded, "That's because I am Harry Connick Jr." Pretty wild. Pretty wild stuff. This next story right here. This next story right here is called The Meme Queen. It says, my wife is a child care provider, and some years ago, one of her clients was... Let me start over. My wife is a child care provider, and some years ago, one of her clients was a couple with a little girl about 2 years old. They dressed her up as a prisoner in an orange jumpsuit and with makeup eyebrows and scars on her face. She became the non-crying half of the "timeout changes a man" meme. The crying boy in the picture is a neighbor. Now, I have to admit, I guess I'm not up on my memes. I'm not up on my memes. Shall we look this one up? Shall we look? Because I'm clueless. Timeout changes a man meme. Show me something. Oh, well, I'll be damned. Okay, so here's the meme. Oh, of course, it's going to be the size of a freaking... I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I guess that's it. Anyway, big deal. Much ado about nothing. Much ado about nothing, people. Sorry about that. Hey, not every story can be a freaking winner. Okay? Not every freaking story can be a winner. I'm sorry. All right. And here is the last little funny story I have for you. This is entitled The Sophomore Year Setup. During my sophomore year of my high school, my sister and her friend tried to set me up on a blind date with the guy who mowed her parents' lawn. It never worked out, and we never met. 2 years later, during senior year, I met and started dating a guy who I'd eventually marry. A couple of years later, we discovered that we were supposed to have been each other's blind date during the sophomore year. We have been together 17 years this March. So she married the lawnmower guy after all. She married Lawnmower Man after all. That's at least the story has a happy ending. Now, I had somebody send me a story. I just had someone send me a story, so you guys got a bonus here tonight. That's what I love about this audience. I'm sitting here minding my own business, and all of a sudden I get a bing! Zoe, you got to read this story. And read it, I will. Don't you just love these people? Don't you just freaking love these people? I do. I do. They're amazing. Okay, the story says, there was this radio program I was listening to recently. They were interviewing some guy who was the executive director of a Christian relief organization who had spent decades in war zones and around poverty and famine and diseases. Some guy who had traveled around the world doing good in the name of God. I was half paying attention when he told two stories. The first was about driving down the road in the aftermath of the Rwandan genocide and seeing a 4-year-old boy stagger out of the bush, malnourished, barely alive, having been without water for nearly 2 days. His parents and other family members had died. There was nobody with him. He was all alone, 4 years old. The second was during the AIDS crisis in Tanzania, or Tanzania, whatever you want to call it. He talked about dead bodies piled up like cordwood beside a tent. They couldn't be buried because the soil was largely ash. He spoke of one day seeing a woman walk up carrying her dead infant in her arms. He watched as she gently placed her baby on a pile of corpses on the back of a truck and turned and slowly walked away. I heard these two stories as I was driving down the road on my way to play squash, and I just about came undone. Impossible, I thought. Impossible that such things could be in the world. Impossible that there could be such soul-destroying, gut-wrenching sorrow and pain in our world. Impossible that God or the universe could tolerate such horror. Impossible that the world could not be thrown off its axis by such sights. A little boy all alone, a mother forced into such an unspeakable goodbye. No, such things cannot, they must not be. But yes, of course they can, they do, and they are, and they always have been, and always will be. The world is a cold, dark place. These two snapshots are representative of horrors too many to begin to enumerate around the globe, across time. For every one or two stories like this that see the light of day, that poke their heads into our affluence and comfort and force us to stare at them, there are quite literally countless others that do not. How many humans, people with brothers and mothers, friends and neighbors, have suffered or continue to suffer completely anonymously? How many names and faces, forgotten, lost to the dull march of brutal time? The executive director is talking again, as my head spins and my heart hurts. The little boy, the mother, dear God, he's talking about providence and how his faith helps him deal with the difficulties and challenges of his job. He's talking about how if God allowed his own son to die the most awful death, then we surely should expect no different here in this life. And I know he's seen more than I will ever see, and done more good than I will ever do, and that he is a man of deep strength and compassion. But what I want to say is, no, you can't talk about providence or play the Jesus suffered the most with of anyone card. No, those words simply won't do. Not here, not now, not when there are 4-year-old boys staggering around in a war zone and mothers without babies. Dear God. Suffering is often thought to be one of the things that theologies and worldviews have to somehow explain. And I suppose that's true on one level, but on another level, I don't think this says enough. Suffering is not some piece of data that we have to fit into the stories we tell ourselves. It's not one of the challenges to belief in a skeptical age. It's not the next topic in the apologetics lineup once we sort out the theories of atonement and the historicity, my eyeballs throwing me for a loop, historicity of the gospel. Suffering is a part of gaping, festering wound at the heart of human existence. It indicts our pasts, it haunts our presents, and threatens our futures. It is the question, the fact, that any official story must wrestle with, fight, and struggle against. And increasingly, I am convinced that if our official story about the ways of the world and the ways of God could not be told to a 4-year-old boy alone in the wilderness, a mother piling her dead baby on the back of a truck, then it's worthless. Better to shut our mouths and weep than pile up on useless words how God works and what God wants. And yet, the executive director was right, wasn't he? I wouldn't put it the way he did, but there is a sense in which this is the only response that he could ever have been given from anyone who clings to Jesus. We will never be able to explain suffering. We will never get all the whys sorted out. We will never know what God was thinking. But there is something about pointing to a God who is splayed out, gasping, and dying on a wooden cross that, I don't know, somehow helps. There is something about this image, this basic fact of our faith, that reminds us that the horrors do not take place outside of our life of God. Somehow, this God takes it all in. 4-year-old boys, mothers, the innumerable sufferings, masses of history, and exposes the whole heaving, lurching, staggering mountain of pain as damnably false and contrary to what ought be. Somehow, this God on a cross bespeaks a day to come where the wrong will be judged, the wound healed, and the incalculable misery forgiven and forgotten. All shall be well. All manner of things shall be well. Behold, I make all things new. A conveniently happy ending? Yes, certainly. But also, I think, what the suffering have always deserved: to not be forgotten, to be anonymous no longer, to be welcomed by God. One big, impossible story to make up for all the impossible stories that should never have been told. Wow. That was written by a gentleman named Ryan Duke. And I thank the sailor who sent that to me. Well, it is pushing 8:30 here on the West Coast, which means it's well after 11 in your neck of the woods back east. I think we're going to call it quits here tonight. I really think we are. Yes, your brother Zoe has got a couple of things I still need to do this evening before I can call it a night. But I want to thank each and every one of you for coming and hanging out. I really do. Let's see. Oh, I can't do that. I'm so used to playing my song. I'm so used to playing my song, and I can't play my song. So if that's the case, I guess we're just going to get one more gander. No, we're just going to take the easy way out, folks. We're just going to take the easy way out. Let me take a moment here, and I'm going to release the scratching over there at Pilled Foxhole. Thank you, wonderful people who donated over there tonight. Rooster 55, Due Diligence, Porpoiseful, Girl Patriot. Thank you all so much for supporting this program. The wonderful folks over there at D Live who dropped all kinds of lemons on me tonight. You guys are wonderful. You're always wonderful. Let me find that treasure chest and put a little something in there. Yes, that looks like it'll be a tidy little sum. Come on now, load up. All right, I'm going to hereby release that treasure chest. It is coming your way. It is coming your way. Rewards are aimed directly at you people. I hope you win. I hope you win. Yes, there are no coincidences, Val. That's a fact. That is a fact. Okay. That scratching should be released, people. I'm not seeing any scratching going down. What is going on over there? Oh, am I behind the times? Am I behind? Come on, somebody scratch that itch over there. Okay. We've got lemon winners. TL Spud 118, Val Kimber 66, Jayla 1749, Alex Allen 39, and Artist 61. Wow, Steph, you're finally on the boards. 33.3. Congratulations, all you wonderful lemon winners over there. That is awesome. That is awesome. I'm happy for each and every one of you. All right, this boy is going to get on out of Dodge. I'm going to get on out of Dodge, folks. It has been it's been a rough couple of 3 days this week so far. And I still got a couple to go. I no longer have the luxury of working 4 10-hour days. I have to work 5 8-hour days. So it's just the way it is sometimes. I wish all of you a great rest of your week. look forward to seeing you this coming Friday as I help co-host The Big Show with my brother, the Texan, over at Pilled Foxhole. And of course, I hope to see you this Saturday for my rock and roll show. That is what I live for these days. Have a great, great rest of your night and a wonderful rest of your week, people. We will see you somewhere down the road, I hope. Somewhere down the road. Be good, my friends. All the best. Your brother Zoe. Checking out.